Hi, uh, I know some people are gonna be totally hate these videos and the stuff that I talk about in economic terms. This is just kind of really un-American kind of way of thinking. Uh, a country that's dominated by nice stores like Sears, Macy's. Uh, I don't know. Cars that are like Tesla cost 30 grand or more, and the A team and the kind of stuff the A team buys, and so I'm the kind of guy, economically speaking, and also as an engineer, that I am not the A team. I'm not even the B team. So the way I think about the products and things are more like stuff that the manufacturer in China thinks. Chinese wanted to get into the African cell phone markets, and they started selling cell phones to African tribes. In the middle of nowhere, there's this tribe, and there's like 500 members of the tribe. It really rains there all the time, and there isn't really an electrical outlet. Maybe within a 50-mile radius, there is one or two. So how do you sell cell phones to these kinds of people? And their engineers got to work, and they made this cell phone is extremely cheap, and all the monies that you have to put on it, like credit, is all the money or credit that's issued by the cell phone company itself. Imagine like you want to buy a time on a prepaid phone, but you have some kind of arrangement with I don't know, T-Mobile, and T-Mobile issues its own currency. It's called T-bills that only works in this tribe in the middle of nowhere, and they use it for everything, for their general stores, and also to put money on the on the on the cell phone. But also because there wasn't any too many electrical outlets, they completely redesigned the battery, so the battery like runs for a week without charging. Then you go to their store, and in the store they charge it for you. You're good to go another week, and then also like I mentioned, the cell phones are extremely. Who would sit down and design or make such a cell phone? It would be like a manufacturer that only could probably exist in like China or India or in the Central Asia, that could think on these economic terms, could think about these small monies attracting these kinds of customers, these kinds of people that most retailers that we don't want you. I mean, I've been told by many retailers in the United States, hey, we don't want you. You are not our kind of customers, and you're not good for us. Well, I lived in the United States for many years, and in those many years, I was also real piss poor, and I had to shop and buy in terms that most people will laugh at, like everything, every dollar had to be stretched 3 times, and you learn things that you never learn when you have a steady paycheck. Well, over the years, as I was experimenting with a lot of these things, I was also watching industries that I was frequenting, and for example, one of the only industries or things that I could afford with my kind of piss poor finance was the internet, because internet when it came out, it was completely free. It was just simply email between some computers. Usually it was you got a free account. uh, the only thing that I could get in a like a university or in a school, and back then we had Usenet, and Usenet was also completely free, and Usenet was being used to communicate and also sometimes to sell stuff to each other. And so in these economic ecosystems, things evolve that become dominant technologies in the future, become things that the whole society turns to that. I mean, back then there were all these retail stores, all these, and you know, if you didn't have a steady job and you didn't have income, well, you had very few places to go, just like the African tribe with their kind of financing and their kind of electrical outlet and their kind of banking system. There probably is like one or two companies in the world, and they have to redesign everything so these guys can use it. But also what happens is that this model of super cheap or even free, it was back there circulating in some economic circles like mine, and but it became a model for a future. And now, for example, I go by many Walmarts or by many nice street corners, and I see somebody has a table or something, and they are distributing Obama phones. And my son got into it, and he's like CEO, and he's making all this money, but he doesn't give me shit. But nobody thought back then this model would become a dominant economic model. I think now the way they do it is that for example, a manufacturer would make millions of these high-tech phones that they take a loss on it. I don't know how much of a loss. They say it cost them $10-20 to make each, and then they hook up with like a national carrier or a national program like Obama phone program or California Lifeline, and then they pay so much every month for their citizens, and then everybody can come in and get a free phone. And that but well, my son was saying that this is not the only program that exists. There is this kind of program or ideas has proliferated into many fields. For example, like the government buys like zillions of units of insulin, and they get a really good price, almost manufacturing cost price, and then they give it away to people like me, and it's like total communism, total. But a lot of products are now manufactured in this fashion and also distributed or given for free. So there is like entire economic sector that's the free or kind of communist kind of economic sector. You can't really add it up in the GDP of the country because there's no dollar value associated with it. But chances are that a large segment of society is receiving their phone service, their data service, their internet. They are able to get on the eBay or buy stuff. Well, you could sit down and think about um, how much of the percentage of the actual economy is this kind of economy, this kind of stuff that's your radar doesn't see, the economic radar, but it's there. But back then, there was another sector that I was also had no choice but to go to, and that was like the charitable organization or the shops they had, like Salvation Army shop and Salvation Army itself. But Goodwill now, I was their customer for a very long time. Goodwill, Salvation Army, and now they have SOS. They are like charity, and they also have stores, thrift stores. There is Catholic Charities of Orange County. I bet they have branches in LA, and well, I used to go to many of these places when things get really bad, and usually they would get really bad because the U.S. government was endlessly fighting with the Iranian government and the Iranian people and the Iranian diaspora. I mean, they had sanctioned so many departments in my life. Like I went for like 20 years, just totally working illegally, and usually wasn't able to get good jobs. I finished my master's degree in engineering, and it all went to waste. I ended up working very shitty jobs to pay the rent, and but then you're like stuck in this undercurrent economy and undercurrent or black economy that like people that are like total illegal aliens. It actually is that the U.S. government does it on purpose to to torment segments of their own society. For example, uh, when Trump came into office, the USCIS they took. By then, I had gone on the amnesty program on Ronald Reagan, and they had me in the immigration computers, and I was showing as U.S. national, and I think they kind of took all that stuff and memory hold it. Even Iranians that had green card, and when you after like a year or two of Trump, when you called or an employer would call, then it show blank like, oh, we don't know you. Who are you? Well, then this kind of filtered into other agencies like Social Security and social services, and they all started tormenting me in different ways. It was like it was really. I think that between all the presidents, Trump was the real motherfucker, and did so much damage to the immigrant and their economy, and the net effect of all his bullshit was that it made everybody much more poor, and after his era, more of these companies popped up that serviced people that were artificially like they were made artificially poor and faceless or illegals that were formerly legal, and just a complete motherfucker. But this is not the main idea I am following through in this video, is that any technology or any kind of company or product that starts or caters to these like the lowest branches of the society, or just like the Chinese or Indian manufacturers, they make super cheap products, super cheap cars, super long lasting batteries that last like 2 weeks, but they cost like 20 cents, stuff like that. These technologies, they kind of flounder around for several years like that. They cater to people like me, and then they suddenly take off. And internet did too. It took off because there was no barrier to entry for many companies. And you could have a few dollars, you could have a little shack, and get into the internet, make a website, make an app, make whatever. And I think that not only this is the pathway to capturing markets or markets that will be, but this is also the route that many technologies that are in the singularity era, that's what they will do. There is a name for this trend and this kind of manufacturing and this kind of stuff. It's called zero marginal cost society and its consequences. Uh, well, when technology uh, takes off, or a process is discovered that makes things cheaper and better, it impacts society in ways that are impossible to gauge what will happen as a result of this. Uh, well, this kind of happened with the Iranian government because they were sanctioned and they couldn't buy any military hardware, and they started making their own whatever they needed, and this ended up in a leaps of technology, products that are extremely cheap, but they're deadly. They have changed wars. I want to continue with these discussions. We'll do more, but I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that like things like mini robots uh, could become like a cell phone. Many governments or countries give them away, and they speed up the processes of things, transportation, doing stuff tremendously. Well, I want to talk about AI and what it will change, but AI is becoming free, and that will be another leap in this zero marginal cost society. I gotta stop. My cough will not let me finish this. Thank you very much.